Howdy. This is my first time I've gone live in a while. This is Marcus at marcusblanketship.com. I've been thinking a lot about keeping my balance, especially in transitions. I happen to be in transition right now. You might be too. In fact, a lot of people that join my list at marcusblanketship.com or are in the Slack room or other people I interact with, they're also in transition. And I notice that when we're in transition from one place to another, it gets a little turbulent. It feels awkward and it's easy to lose your balance. In fact, maybe the metaphor of crossing a river by sort of feeling your way across, that actually feels like a pretty good metaphor to me, because what happens is I can't really see under the water. I can see what's above the water, but I can feel what's under the water. And under the water, there's stuff like moss covered rocks and sharp stones. And especially if I'm not wearing shoes, all of this really can throw me off. Let's not even discount. Let's remember there's also a current, right? When that current comes, that current is new. You don't experience the current when you are standing next to the river. Now, let's be clear here. Let's associate this with, of course, the thing that we are primarily concerned with, and that's with becoming better technical leaders. So let's imagine that we are going to take a job. This is a new job. Maybe you've just been promoted into a team lead or a software manager, a director, or a CTO. And by the way, for those of you who think that CTOs don't have this problem, I guarantee they do. When we are looking at the river, we can sort of get a sense for rivers we've crossed in the past. And we might be able to guess what's under the water and kind of gauge how fast the current's going. But the reality is that we don't actually feel it until we get into the river. That's when not only do we feel how cold the water is, how slippery the rocks are, and how much of the current is pushing. And as you might get a sense, the deeper you go into the river as you walk across it, the harder the current pushes against you. And so what we usually do is we throw our hands out, and sometimes we fall over, we get wet. If the current's really far, it might take us a few feet downstream, but we pick ourselves up and we continue moving forward. Learning, okay, this is the kind of rock I shouldn't put my weight on when it feels slippery. Or, you know what, I need to turn and face the current because facing away from it pushes me over. So if I face towards it, maybe that helps me. Or maybe there's something else about how we walk. My point here is that as we transition from one side of the river to the other, going through the current, we are in a particularly vulnerable state to become off balance. Now, in your work, as you transition from one place to another, whether it's one role to another, or one team to another, or one company to another, that's when you can lose your balance. And so what I wanted to think about today, I wanted to talk to you about some ways you might try and keep your balance during those difficult times. I've found some of these to be pretty useful, but at the end of the day, none of these are going to be useful until you get in the current and you feel the effects, right? You have to feel for yourself, how fast is the water going? How much is it pushing on you? In what ways is it pushing on you? What is slippery now? So here's a couple things I recommend, okay? So first of all, I recommend that you start a journal. Now, you might think about this as your transition journal. And in your transition journal, what you can do is you can note the things that feel new to you. By the way, I think my wife's going to come in, and there she is. But in your... This is live. This is how my life is as I go live on YouTube. Yes, I'm in transition between rooms. All right. So what I think you should try and do is keep a transition journal. And in that transition journal, you can start to note two things. I want you to start to think about what is same and what is different. What is the same in this new place as you're transitioning as in the old place? For example, maybe your head never gets wet as you cross the river. That you might list that as something that's the same. Maybe you have the same title Maybe you work in the same kind of programming language. Maybe you have the same team members, but you're working on a different project. There's lots of different kinds of transitions. Figuring out what's same helps you sort of create an anchor to say, this is known and familiar, and I can keep doing things the way I was doing them. They're probably still going to work. Now I'd like you to think about what is different. And again, this is in a journal, just making a list. The things that are different represent places where your mental model may need to be updated, your skills may need to change, and generally you should be more aware of being thrown off balance. One of the first places this happened to me in my career was when I went from managing no one to managing one person. Now, you might say, that sounds pretty easy. I managed 10 people. But there was something about the change from 0 to 1 that made a big difference. I certainly remember there were things that stayed the same, but there were more things that were different. Some of those things that were different, no one else could ever see, but that was a difference in identity, a difference in what I thought maybe my work should be, and now just the difference of being responsible for someone else. As I recognized those differences, I slowly created mental models and tools to help me keep my balance, to help me adjust to those things. Because while no one can tell you like how to always keep your balance, what we can remind each other is that what we could do better is to get up quicker. So at least if you can't keep your balance, you can hopefully regain your balance faster by recognizing the things in your new role, in your new transition at your new company that are the same and different. All right, you can sign up for my mailing list to get videos like this, as well as other writing at Marcus@marcusblankenship.com. Have a great day.